We're surrounded by this invisible world of software, right? A hidden layer of code that's running on pretty much every single smart device we own. So today we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most important pieces of that world, an operating system you've probably never even heard of, but almost certainly use every single day.
Just think about it for a sec. Your smartwatch, your fitness tracker, the smart thermostat on your wall. Heck, even industrial sensors in a factory. They're all tiny little computers. But they can't run Windows or Mac OS. No way. They just don't have the power, the memory, or the space. So what kind of specialized brain do they possibly need to operate, to think, and to connect to our world?
Well, the answer is something called a real-time operating system, or an RTOS. Now, unlike the OS on your laptop, which can afford to lag for a second while it opens an app, an RTOS is all about instant response. Think about the analog brakes in your car. You need them to work right now, not a moment later. That's the world of real-time systems, and it's the absolute foundation for the entire Internet of Things.
And in this world of specialized brains, one project has kind of quietly risen to become this totally dominant force. So let's talk about this tiny OS with a huge impact.
It's called Zephyr, and it's an open-source RTOS that's hosted by the very same Linux Foundation that looks after the Linux kernel, the software that powers most of the Internet. That connection alone tells you this is a serious, world-class project. But its story? Well, it didn't start there.
The journey of Zephyr is actually a really fascinating look at how technology evolves, going from this closed-off commercial product to a massive collaborative open-source project.
So it all started with a commercial RTOS called Virtuoso, but then, in 2015, its owner, Wind River, saw this coming wave of IoT and made a totally brilliant move. They took their proprietary tech, renamed it Rocket, and just set it free as open source. A few months later, the Linux Foundation picks it up, gives it a new name, Zephyr, and the global platform it really needed to take off. This whole transformation, from a closed product to a global collaborative project, was the absolute key to its success.
So what made this little OS so revolutionary? Honestly, it boils down to one word: size. A traditional RTOS, something like vWorks, needed 200 kilobytes or more of memory. But Rocket, the precursor to Zephyr, could shrink down to just 4 kilobytes. That massive 50-fold reduction was the breakthrough. It was what was needed to power this coming wave of incredibly small, low-cost devices.
Now, that tiny footprint is no accident. It's the result of some really clever design principles that give Zephyr its incredible flexibility and security. Let's take a peek at how it all works.
Okay, the best way to think about Zephyr is like a set of Legos. Instead of getting a pre-built model, developers get a whole box of bricks. They only pick the exact pieces they need: a Bluetooth brick here, a sensor driver brick there. This is all defined at what's called compile time, using these proven systems like kconfig and device tree that were inherited directly from the Linux kernel. What this all means is that the final operating system is custom-built to be as small and as efficient as humanly possible for one specific device. No wasted space. And of course, these little devices have to talk to each other and to the Internet. So Zephyr comes with built-in support for all the essential languages of the IoT, like Bluetooth Low Energy for your headphones and MQTT for sending these tiny little packets of sensor data up to the cloud. It's just ready to connect right out of the box.
And in a connected world, security is everything. And here, Zephyr's open-source nature is a huge advantage. Instead of just a handful of developers at one company looking at the code, it's constantly being examined by a global community. More eyes on the code simply means vulnerabilities get found and fixed way faster, which makes the whole ecosystem a lot safer for all of us.
Okay, so we've got a small, flexible, and secure OS. But how do we know it's actually winning? Well, the data tells a really clear story of its dominance. First off, hardware support. Zephyr can run on over 900 different types of hardware boards. I mean, that's incredible. It gives developers this amazing freedom of choice and means they can get their products out there faster without being locked into a single supplier.
And you can literally see its momentum right here. This chart measures project activity, basically the number of developers contributing code to different open-source RTOS projects. Zephyr isn't just leading, it's lapping the competition. It's not even close. In that kind of vibrant community, it acts like a magnet, just pulling in more developers and more companies, creating this powerful, self-sustaining cycle of growth.
And this isn't just some hobbyist project, It's backed by some of the biggest names in tech.
We're talking chipmakers like Intel and NXP, consumer audio giants like Bose, and even medical device companies. They all bet their products on Zephyr's reliability and its performance.
So what does this all mean for the future? Why does a tiny little operating system matter so much in the grand scheme of things?
You know, as this quote from Forbes pointed out right when the project launched, Zephyr represents a really fundamental shift. Just like open-source Linux became the standard for servers and the cloud, Zephyr is creating a standardized, open foundation for the trillions, yes, trillions, of smart devices that are still to come.
The logic here is pretty simple, and it's powerful. The flood of connected devices isn't slowing down. They all need a common, reliable, and secure brain to run on. And instead of every single company reinventing the wheel, an open-source project like Zephyr provides that crucial common infrastructure, which allows everyone else to innovate on top of it.
So, the next time you check your heart rate on your watch, or you adjust your smart thermostat, just remember that unseen giant at work. A free, collaborative operating system built by a global community is the hidden brain that's quietly making our world more connected and a whole lot more intelligent.
And this leaves us with a final thought. As we build this increasingly complex, interconnected world, who should be in charge of its most fundamental building blocks? Well, Zephyr suggests an answer. It's not one single company, it's all of us, working together out in the open.